Welcome to a Nothing from Nothing production. Hello, everybody. This is Mark Christopher with Bill Turley, and this is the Junction Podcast, a podcast about growing up in Brooklyn in the 1970s and 80s. We're hoping to protect the names of the innocent as well as the extremely guilty, and there were plenty of those. Well, here goes.
Brooklyn, 1977. The city is broke. The blackout has turned the boroughs feral, and Son of Sam haunts the summer nights. Crime owns the streets. The cops own the corners, and the line between them is thinner than a junkie's last vein. All the sinners are saints. Available on KDP, Amazon, and Ingram Spark. Welcome back to the Brooklyn Junction.
Good afternoon, Mark. How are you today?
I'm doing dandy. I happen to have the house filled for Thanksgiving, so all the kids are here, and I was able to get down into my, I guess, our dining room. And the one thing I've noticed recently is that I guess everybody got this in COVID, but there's three 30-something-year-old executives in conference calls all around my house, and I remembered the international symbol for "shut the fuck up." And that's, I walk to the door to say hello, to maybe bring them a water or a tea or something. And I have this look like, so they're all in the room, like, doing this kind of like, what are you bothering me for? You know what I mean? And it's, they're all of them. There's 3 conference calls going on upstairs.
You got the whole Mishproka there, huh?
Yeah.
So you go Norman Rockwell this year.
Oh yeah, it's cool. Thanks. It's cool. I'm more. Look, we annoy the shit out of them, right? But okay. I love every minute of being around them. Yeah. My son said, "Could you look?" He looks up from his computer because his mother is constantly reminding him to do certain things. He's buying a place near you, right? And so she's reminding him, look, if you do dark floors, it's going to make the place look dark, And he's like. He stops, he says, "Excuse me." And he tells to his boss, and he puts the computer down. He says, "I'll be back in 2 minutes." He puts the computer down, stands and looks at the two of us and says, "Put the brakes on." And walks back to his computer and he re-engages in his work call. So anyways, hey, it's great to see them. I love it. But we're here for another reason.
So we're here today to talk about your book, All the Sinners Are Saints.
I really appreciate it. Yes.
I finished reading it last week, and it was really a fun read. It was really like going back in time to the 1970s and reliving my Brooklyn teenage years,
Yeah, that's great.
So, did you when you wanted to get this published, did you send cover letters out that said like, "Dear Sir or Madam, would you read my book? It took me years to write. Would you take a look? It's based on a novel, but never mind. All right, I'm sorry. I had to slip the card.
I had the history of searching for literary agents is a little boring, but effectively, yes, I made an attempt, and I had representation at one point, but I had to make a choice. Put my head back into writing. As you can see, it was copywritten in 2008. That's when it was really basically completed, or work on my career, and obviously. Yeah, you have to put money on, food on money in the bank and food on the table. So, exactly. And I, on that subject in general, I'm not a huge egomaniac. You know that. You're not either. We're both relatively self-effacing and self-aware, but I'm not really good at being supplicant. Begging literary agents to read my book,
right.
And I feel that industry is the variables and the variabilities. There's probably wonderful literary agents out there, but outside of my first representation, which required me to be a full-time writer, which I couldn't do.
Well, let me ask you something. Did you tell them you could make it longer if they liked the start? And no, no. But so like what you did. So I was going to get into this later, but we might as well talk about it now. So this book is this a self-publication? Is that what they call it?
Self-publication through Affinity Book Writing. And
okay.
Yeah. And
tell me how that works.
Well, that's really, there's incubators now that have arisen because of the same frustrating a lot of writers. I understand literary agents probably because of the folks working from home got a tsunami of titles ranging from uh, you know, crap to mediocre to excellent, probably. And it's hard to sift which are good. So this whole industry, I could open up a little, hey, I'll publish your book now, right? Which is, I'm
Right.
publishing it on 6 platforms. I'm advertising through Instagram. I'm advertising through all of the social media platforms. You've seen the videos, which will be playing in the background here, that I've created to promote it. And I'm taking a big swing on doing a lot of this stuff myself. So let's say, Bill, because obviously very accomplished lawyer, but you wouldn't call yourself a techie, right? Right. So a techie. You're not a techie, right?
No.
So the point is the self-publishing thing. You could do it all yourself if you have some technical skills, which I do. So, but I hired a company called Affinity Book Writing, and they're helping me along. We have big meetings tomorrow to kick off the marketing launch, and it's as long as it's a written piece of work that doesn't have any of the offensive markers that would shut them down. And you can't put like a 3-page thing up on Amazon. They expect a proper book, and they have probably some AI agents sift through it to see that it's actually a real book, and then they allow you to publish it. So I don't have the energy or inclination to go to like literary agent symposiums, all that kind of stuff. I have a friend who's done that, and it's not my thing. My thing is writing, and I've been doing it since I'm 14 years old. And some of the original writing from when I was, let's say, in college appears in this book. Maybe the subject matter.
So on that note, so how did this book come about? And I know it was in the making for a long time, but how long was it in the making?
Well, it depends. I've got 5 pieces I've written, and this is some of its elements go all the way back to teenage angstville, like my early 20s, and you could feel the anger and the hotness in some of it. That I was able to. I don't feel that way anymore, but it was good to have that kind of.
Thank God.
Yeah, my God, right? Jesus Christ, I fixed some things, and so it's been on and off probably since mid 2000s.
Ah, okay.
So let's say 2007. 2007 was when I really had gotten serious about it.
So, okay. And I as I said, I read the book last week. I finished it last week, and it was really a fun read going through. I can just picture some of these places that you mentioned, and some of the characters. And the way I kind of sum it up is, we watch the protagonist here, Red Delaney, who's the main character here, as he navigates the mean streets of 1970s Brooklyn with a very weak moral compass, or some might say no compass at all. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. So the concept was, I watched people make life choices now that I'm 64 years old, right? And I said, what if everybody consistently made the wrong choice? Right? They made the wrong choice. So what really inspired my brother-in-law was a police captain, and he went to arrest a pot dealer, which is insanity, right? This guy went to jail for 25 years for selling. He was a big pot dealer. He shows up, my brother-in-law, right? And he shows up to arrest the individual. And the individual had a child with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair, right? And the guy goes, "You see my situation. I'll be out of this country by noon. Help me out. There's $1 million in the wall. Take the money and run. Nobody needs to know anything." And Vinny, being an upright person, did all the right things, right? But he said he felt horrible driving this guy to jail and putting the woman, the child, into the system. And I was like, what if he took the wrong choice, right? What if he, and we'll leave it at that because I don't want to ruin the book so much, but what if Red's, everybody has a tagline. Red's tagline is Oscar Wilde's famous line, he could resist anything except
Resist-
temptation.
Yeah.
So,
Did you know? Did you personally know anyone like Red Delaney, or is
I don't want to get, we have a real strict rule on the Brooklyn Junction, right, where we say we protect the names of the innocent and the guilty, right,
and the extremely guilty? Yes.
and the extremely guilty. Yeah. And I knew a Red who was extremely guilty and was much more unsavory than my character. And conversely, the true story that depicts the scam against New York City, which is later in the book, is an actual true story. Yeah. And that's what it's the root cause of this whole story.
So just, to springboard off that, are the characters in the book based on actual people? Are they composites?
They're all composites. What ends up happening is people ask that question all the time. And you do start with some sort of, template. Like, I'm sure Carolyn, my wife, is going to be, am I Red's wife? Which clearly you could see that this woman is not. I went to depict a woman very different from my wife, right? She's of German descent. I had an aunt who's a sweetheart from heaven who is not like the Agnes character. But you start to develop a mosaic. And originally, when I wrote this in 2008 and copywrote it, Red was a much more unsavory character. Then a very good friend of mine, Phil, a police sergeant, started talking to me about how he took the position as a policeman as a vocation, as a way to help people. Similar to what you've done with your life. You know what I mean? You're helping people. And he really walked the walk. He would be the police officer, of ultimate probity, just probity, or however that word is, moral compass. And so he does inform Captain Devin Mahoney, right? He does, he's always talking, he never curses, he's religious, and he talks about the sacrifice the policemen make. And I think it makes a much more layered story to have the basic moral guidepost in the book, if there is a strong one, is the police captain and the mother of the paramour, who's a Hispanic woman who's lighting candles and just wants to always be, small character. Yeah. But I wanted to
you do make a lot of references in here to the Catholic Church, and
yes.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
They're not all positive either.
Well, I really, again, I believe that the Catholic Church is, as for the most part, a positive institution. But when all of this comes from me, and my second book, which is about corporate malfeasance, is all about looking at these people, and I'm amazed that these people, right, pass through my life. And especially when I was a kid, I had sussed out that these teachers and perhaps some of the priests and definitely some of the brothers were deeply flawed human beings with proclivities that are just nefarious and evil. And so I was in a state of shock. I talk about this with your brother, even with you walking the streets of Flatbush. I said, look at everything. Every institution was corrupt. The police were corrupt back then, right? The Catholic Church was corrupt back then. Certainly the politicians were corrupt back then. And so it's about, the mendacity of these folks. And I try to take the anger out a little bit, because I was nonplussed and angry when I was young about this stuff. And I would talk to my dad about it, and he would say, you got to just navigate this and create your own personal bubble and try to separate yourself from these folks.
So I'm guessing that the story itself, and there are many stories within the story, they're based on some actual events, I guess. Because one thing in particular that really made me laugh. You mentioned something in passing in the book about some kids that get on a bus while the driver leaves the bus to go relieve himself, and I mean, something like that actually happened, right?
Yeah, that's it, right. So that's one of the funny things. We all, So the bus, I wanted it from the approach of Red feeling bad for these kids. You know what I mean? So to background, and that's a fairly benign story. About 8 of us, including the valedictorian of our high school, I think, or grammar school, were walking down Kings Highway, right? And as we're walking down Kings Highway, there's a bus with the door open, just sitting there, a New York City bus. So we all got on the bus, and as a joke, I got on the speaker, right? And I said, okay, kids, we're going to go to Great Adventure. I want everyone to have a good time, and don't chew gum on the bus. And we're kidding around, and 6 cop cars come around. 6, not 1, not 2, 6. And it was like a comical Keystone Cops thing, dozens of cops, and they were arguing about who would get the bust because it would fulfill their arrest quota, right? And someone was on, why don't we just let these kids go? They're just, so one cop walks onto the bus and Tommy, a friend of mine, Tommy, says, "Que sera, sera." And the cop goes, "Who said that?" He goes, "I don't know. I don't speak Spanish." Right? And the cop gets livid. You smart asses, we were gonna let you go, but now you're all going downtown. And we went downtown. We ended up with appearance tickets. That's it. It was never anything big, right? And it was really just and they really protected us through the process. They really wanted the overtime. Okay. But my point is, I have Red trying to argue at one of the smallest scenes in the book is that was an incident that happened, and there's darker ones that happen.
I recognized that right away because I had always heard that story. I remember my brother telling it to me for the first time, and I was like, "He did what?"
Well, we did so many. Yeah. We didn't realize we were doing something.
Yeah. So, you do paint a very, very bleak picture of Brooklyn and specifically Flatbush back in the 1970s. And is that really how you remember it?
Yeah, I remember basically when we grew up, I was a little bit in the mean streets. We were all, and we've talked about this on the Brooklyn Junction.
Yeah.
I was, my parents were very involved in their lives, and they were good parents. I love them, and I miss them every day. But they didn't have the tools, or they were the opposite of helicopter parents. They were, get out there and just go. Get the fuck out, and so we would run the streets. I mean, there's some sad shit with this. My brother got his eye shot out, as you probably know.
Yes.
It was a BB gun, but we were growing up like weeds out there. And sometimes people look back and the overprotective nature of our generation is sort of as a backdraft against it. I would go out all hours of the night. Was, as the book depicts, I was almost killed, and I'm sort of the Sean Callahan character. The wide-eyed teenager looking at, isn't this place insane?
Yeah.
I was almost killed at least 2 to 4 times, depending on what you call a near-death experience, right? And we talked about that on the Brooklyn Junction. And I was walking around and kind of bemused, what the hell is this? What is this insane place?
Yeah.
The Red that I originally wrote about lived beneath me, and he did steal a truck of beer and put it in his garage, right? And he was a policeman, and so all of these there's at least 4 or 5 real major events that are actually real, including, and I don't want to ruin the book, the scam he perpetuated on New York City. That's a totally real story. It really happened in history.
But it's funny what you say about the the mean streets and you being out there unsupervised, growing like weeds. I mean, my family was, my parents were pretty involved with us, but I will tell you this: there's almost a 20-year span in my family between the oldest and youngest.
Typical Irish family, at least 25 years.
Yeah, but I would say my parents were pretty strict with my older brother and my older sister, and then Tom and I are kind of in the middle, and they had really, relaxed things quite a bit by the time we were teenagers. And by the time my younger sister was a teenager, they were exhausted. They've been raising kids since 1947, She did whatever she wanted, It's like, wait a minute, I couldn't do that, But it's funny that you.
Well,
bring that
it's
up.
the yin yang of existence, right? There's good and bad. I mean, the internet's good, the internet's bad, right? Everything, black,
Yeah,
white. It's like Hindu philosophy, right? It's also in Buddhist philosophy about the binary nature of existence. And so you could have gone through Brooklyn the same time as me and had nothing but stickball, bottle caps,
yeah,
like basketball. You could have had. I just had an arc, a character arc, if you will, right? That had a lot of darkness at the beginning, and so why your brother, I think, was initially attracted to me. I was like going, "What the hell's going on?" And we
right.
became really good friends. And then, by junior year of high school, I would say it was dark and nasty until like junior year of high school, and then it really got great for me. And I don't want to say this. As soon as I say this, something will happen. I've been very fortunate that but even the last year of Brooklyn, there was a woman that was knifing people at the Vanderbilt bar. You know what I mean? Like across the street from my apartment building. And so it was like. I grew up rougher. My buddy Dave Robinson, I only mentioned that he's African American. He grew up a lot more structured and pleasant than I did, and deeper
Yeah,
into near Bed-Stuy. So
yeah.
it's just Go ahead.
There was. It's so funny how like I know growing up in Brooklyn in the '70s, there were certain parts of the city of Brooklyn that we just did not venture into that are now like
$5 million
you know
homes.
very hip trendy neighborhoods, like for example, a lot of kids live in Bushwick now. It was
Yeah.
Williamsburg for a while, but they've been outpriced in Williamsburg, but Bushwick is the big place now. And man, we never ventured into Bushwick.
No.
That was like that was like what you saw in Serpico,
No. No. And
But
what's
Florida
over the
was great.
cops?
I so many young kids that live there now, and the same thing with Bedford Stuyvesant, Crown Heights. It's just like areas we just did not venture into that are now
Yeah.
you know
So the stories
very hip.
about I always embodied it with my cousin because she stayed in Brooklyn. Then like all the Irish moved to Rockaway, right? Few of us were a
Yeah,
little ahead of them. Like you and I were ahead of them. We moved to Long Island, and some moved to Jersey. That has to tell you something. I maybe got two
yeah,
friends that stayed in the Flatbush area out of like 40, 50 people I knew,
yeah.
and I know that that's come back, and anybody around Quentin Road is still happy, and it's a beautiful little area, Marine Park area and stuff. But if everybody left, I mean, everybody left. We've had
Yeah,
John O'Donnell on this broadcast on the Brooklyn
right.
Junction. He's in Virginia. John Murphy's coming on next year. He's in
Yeah.
Kansas. It's like Tom. He's
Wow.
Kansas, right? Tom is down in Southern Jersey. John Lombardi is in Southern Jersey, right? How
Yeah.
come none of us, if it was so great, how come none of us stayed? My brother is in Jersey, about as a Brooklyn a guy as you'll ever meet. So the point was, um, it's we grew up rough and ready, and the basic thing I sussed when I was young was the institutions that were supposed to protect us, teach us, guide us were extremely corrupted, and all hosed
Mm.
up. In the midst of that, you'd find a gem, a Mr. Holmes, if you will, a Brother John, right?
Yeah.
Wieners, right? You'd find the occasional gem, but for the most part, we grew up like weeds, and it was dangerous. I mean, Mean Streets is all about that. You see, you didn't venture out as much as I did. It was dangerous for me at times.
So one more question. The title, "All the Sinners Are Saints." Tell me where that comes from. I think I know the answer to it, but
Well,
I
it's
want
the
to hear it
Rolling
from the other.
Stones and all the sinners saints, right? But it really
Right.
depicts the concept of there's very few white hats, and there are black hats. Hitler's a black hat, right? Though his
Yeah.
dog loved him. His dog loved him. So maybe that. But my point is, I think that sinners can be saints and saints can be sinners, right? And I recently came across like a catechism, if you will, and it was, your sins will find you. And I thought that was an extraordinarily profound comment, that your proclivities that are potentially sinful, greed, avarice, sexual, whatever it might be, will find you. And in this book, for the most part, right, everyone's sins finds them, right? And it's the temptation at the beginning of the book that you and I would never succumb to, which we didn't succumb to. Could easily succumb to these things, right? But the sins that are displayed in the beginning of the book, we see how the characters navigate succumbing to those sins, right? And within the context of succumbing to those sins, how their redemption story or their lack thereof, gets resolved as their sins find them.
Has your family read the book?
They're starting to, right? They're starting to. To be honest, Carolyn didn't want for a while. That's why there's such a gap. And I have other pieces because there's sex and violence in it, right?
Yeah, I was going to say there should be a parental advisory on this thing because there are a couple of passages that are like, bordering on pornographic. I don't know.
Yeah, I try to. I wrote those when I was at my horniest too. So I mean, maybe
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if I could write them today.
No, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
but look, it's a fun read. All the Sinners Are Saints is available on Amazon, and where else can you get it?
You can get it on Ingram Spark, and I'll put it down, and not to keep everybody listening, I'll put it down in the comments below, underneath this episode. And I want to thank you, Bill, for reading it and being here for this portion. And we'll be back with our regular hilarity. We've got a couple more episodes before the year's out, and then we're going to start season 3. So thank you for joining us on the Brooklyn Junction, and I hope every one of you buy this book and put it in your stocking stuffers. Ciao.
Happy
now.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks for watching the Brooklyn Junction, and please enjoy All the Sinners Are Saints. Brooklyn, 1977. The city is broke. The blackout has turned the boroughs feral, and Son of Sam haunts the summer nights. Crime owns the streets. The cops own the corners, and the line between them is thinner than a junkie's last vein. All the Sinners Are Saints. Available on KDP, Amazon, and Ingram Spark.